Hey, it's Billy Corinne here, and today I'm here with Cecily from the Typewriter Tarot. Hey, Cecily, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm very excited you are here to talk
I
all
am
things tarot.
I'm excited to be here. I always am excited to talk about tarot.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the Typewriter Tarot.
Yeah, it's a little collective that I started about 3 years ago. Tarot kind of seized me suddenly in life. I had a tarot deck for quite a long time, but didn't really know how to use it. And some things kind of shifted in life where suddenly I was, I guess, more open to it, or I was finally ready for it.
Mhm.
And did a reading kind of for fun for my sister, and it was so eerily accurate that I
Mhm.
was like, okay, let's find out. And yeah, then I really kind of clung to tarot and really went on a deep dive and fell in love with it and wanted to share it with more people. I find that it's a really helpful tool for self reflection, for validation, for creativity. I have a background in writing, and some of the other women who read tarot with me do as well. And I think tarot and writing have a really nice overlap.
Right.
Both are about storytelling, both are about, what you imagine, both are kind of magical in a sense and kind of cast a spell. And so I think that's part of what really solidified my interest in it. And so typewriter tarot, we have the typewriter in the title because writing is also part of the tarot world that we're kind of delving into. So we offer classes around learning tarot, but also classes about like how you can use tarot in a creative practice. And then we do readings for people, readings for couples, readings for big groups of people at an event. And then we have a few like little products that we offer as well.
Awesome. With the typewriter, what is that? The Mystic Messages? Is that? Tell me about that. I'm excited about this.
Yes, we wrote a short poem for every tarot card in the deck, and that's 78 cards. And then I have a 1960s Smith Corona typewriter, so I typed all of those poems on the typewriter, and now they're printed on this like card like this. So they're short, and what happens when you get a mystic message is I send you like the card itself. Here's the card. So like the strength card, for example, along with the poem. And then we have like an envelope. I type your address on it with the typewriter. Collect I try to collect some interesting stamps that I can
Mhm.
sort of match intuitively with the person. So usually if you order one, like I'll pull a card, and that's kind of the random, you sort of get in the mail what
Gotcha.
you might get more quickly if you did a reading for yourself, but you also get the poem too.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So I have a slight obsession with typewriters. We only have one in the house right now because when we had moved, we basically sold everything we owned. But it's so funny that all my kids somehow have that same love, and actually the typewriter we currently have was when my son, who's 14 now, turned 12. He was like, I want a typewriter. So I was like, I will make that happen.
Yeah, I've worked in organizations where we did children's programming, and we would take the typewriter out to, if we were exhibiting somewhere, and it definitely always attracted
Yeah.
children. And like now it's like an antique
Yeah.
thing to kids, growing up today since computers are our new mode. But the like being able to like type it and see it show up on a piece of paper immediately is like somehow just like mind blowing. So
Magical. I love it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it feels so good that like banging.
Right?
Yeah,
Instant gratification. The words are there. It's right there.
exactly.
Fun. So how do you use tarot every day?
Um, I find that, I mean, I honestly don't use it every single
Okay.
day, but I use it often. I use it regularly, several times a week, probably, and definitely around like new moons and full
Mhm.
moons, I'll get out my cards, or also like wheel of the year moments, those different holidays around our spin around the earth. but also just when I'm really feeling like I need some guidance.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely encourage people, and there were times when I have used tarot every day, and that can look like just pulling a card for yourself in the morning to see what shows up and trying to connect with the card a little bit before you start your day. And then, at the end of the day, kind of reflecting on what that card, how it played out in your lived experience. And that's one way to really kind of build a connection with the cards that's personal and not just trying to like digest all of the information that you
Right.
might find in a tarot book.
Can you dig a little deeper into like how you use tarot, like for creativity and stuff? You said you teach classes on that specifically.
Yeah, so, and we're about to launch a new program that kind of addresses that more deeply. But I think for creative people, you feel this creative energy that lives inside of you. And for everyone, that looks a little different. And everyone has kind of like a different collection of expressions for what creativity looks like, whether that's like cooking or creating art or typing on the typewriter, or writing poems, or, so many different expressions of creativity. But I think we live in a world where creativity, like on paper, is very much exalted. Like being creative and innovative is very wonderful and
Mhm.
supposedly prized in our society. But we also live in a society where there's like a certain expectation for how we should live our lives, and like what the trajectory of that should look like, and how what we create should probably have some kind of like monetary value. And so I think when you're creating on your own, and when you're kind of channeling that creative energy only through yourself, like no one else has any access to what ideas are coming through you, there's this whole process of like second guessing, and why am I making this? And like, who's going to want this? Why should it be me? Does this have any value? So
Mhm.
things like that show up for us in so many different ways. And I think tarot can really pull us outside of our thinking mind and all of like the programs that run in our head and all of the stories that our inner critic likes to tell us about our creativity. And it can really kind of show a lot more possibility for your work, and like reinvigorate your work, and help you find, it reminds you like why you do it, why you're connected to it, why you care about it. And I think it reminds you that there's like an inherent value in being creative, even if you haven't figured out exactly what you're trying to say or what you're trying to create or what it's going to look like. Tarot is really like a good teacher for like trusting the process and asking questions along the way, rather than
Mhm.
like setting this expectation for yourself and making sure you arrive there and then criticize it, like judging yourself according to whether you fulfilled or failed.
That's right.
Um, so yeah, like I think it's a great starting point for writing a poem, um, or sketching something out. And especially when you put two different cards in combination with each other, you get an interesting tension, or you get an interesting complementary duo in the cards. And that can really get you thinking about what you have to say about that kind of flavor of life, or that like aspect of two energies coming together. It's a little abstract because creativity sort of is
Right.
abstract, but I think it's such a suitable tool for that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. I've definitely, I'm not going to say I haven't thought about, tarot helping that creative side of me, but it's definitely not, something that I think about all the time. Um, the storytelling and write, like for sure with writing, but not necessarily in other endeavors. So that's, it sounds interesting. Like, that could be extremely beneficial.
Yeah, and I think our focus has primarily been on writing, just because that's been more of my background.
Mm-hmm.
You have, when you're struggling, when you're working with language, like there's an intellectual part of that, as there is to probably any art form. Um, but language is also confining. Like we only have so many options. we've read a bunch of stories in our language already, and stories have a kind of formula, and the cards can tell a story, but they do that without language. So we have to think with kind of like a different aspect of our brain, and we get to like fill in with our imagination some of what the tarot is kind of like teasing out for us. And so you can focus less on like a beautiful perfect sentence or a beautiful perfect line of poetry, and kind of escape into a whole realm where you might find even more rich material for yourself.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. How did you take any tarot classes? How did you, when you first felt really called to tarot, like how did you dive in?
Um, I I'm a Capricorn, so I got like a special journal just for learning
My
tarot.
little Capricorn.
A little Capricorn, Capricorn sun, Capricorn moon.
Oh.
Um, I bought a couple books. I found, podcasts that would help me. And I kept a page for each card, and I was like taking notes about the different information that I had or that I was finding. And then as I felt like I got to know the cards a little better, I would start um, like putting them in combinations of two and trying to tell a story with those two cards, and like switching it up, kind of like
Mm.
flashcards for my little Capricorn self. And just kept continuing to practice and experiment. And then, as I started reading for other people, that's a really big teacher, that having the context of the other person's question, their lived experience, because I can interpret the cards on my own with whatever information I'm finding till the cows come home, but it's going to always kind of filter through my own experience. And that's certainly true because I'm always present for the readings that I'm doing. But when you're sitting with someone else and you start to kind of get curious about how the cards are showing up for them, it's kind of like looking through, like each card is like a prism, and you can kind of turn it at this different angle and find these slightly different meanings in the card given different life experiences or different like real life examples.
Right.
So even just like experimenting with pulling cards for other people and having conversations with other people as you talk about the cards, like the best conversations I ever have start with tarot cards in front of you. Like there's no small talk, you're like right
Right.
in the juicy stuff.
Yeah. No, I love that. So I hate small talk just in general anyway.
Same.
So yeah, so when I get my cards read, especially in person, it's like, oh, we're just getting to the heart of everything, like my deepest fears, deepest everything just come pouring out, and that's a great feeling. Like, so I don't read a tarot often. Like, I always feel like whenever I reach for my tarot cards, it's like out of desperation. So like I definitely want to incorporate them more in my life. Um, but just I feel like just for validation is my main focus when I read the cards, because it's like I always know the right thing, or I know where this is headed or whatever, but just having that confirmation, or just reminding me to stay true to myself is always a huge help.
It's so refreshing.
Yeah.
And the fact that you pull that the cards are all face down when you pull them, like you can have a friend or a partner tell you something encouraging, and that feels really great, but you also know that they love you. I mean, your tarot cards love you too, but if you treat
It's a
them
little
right.
different.
But they are pieces of paper at the end of the day. And I think when you have that sense of validation that came from something that's a little more unbiased, like you chose the card at random, you know, there's a chance that you could get a different card that isn't as validating.
Mhm.
So it feels like double validation because it came from like elsewhere, both within you and outside of you,
Right.
and from some place you can't even identify. And I also feel like the cards will sometimes like validate you, like, yes, this, but also add on something that you hadn't really noticed or that you weren't fully paying attention to. And
Absolutely.
so it really helps with like the blind spots as well.
Yeah. And often just kind of solidifying everything. Like I tend to have such abstract thoughts that I can't even form, my opinions about everything necessarily. And, just, pulling cards and it's like, oh, yes, that makes sense. I understand that now. I know why I'm feeling like this now because of this. So it definitely helps solidify a lot of that in my mind.
Yeah, it can really lock things into place.
Definitely. Okay, so you were talking about a new product that you're getting ready to launch, something that helps more with the creative process. Tell me, I'm very, very interested.
Yes, I am excited to put this out and hope some people in the world find it exciting too. But it's called Cosmic Rescue. And it's kind of like a creative care package that you sign up for, and you just sign up for the month. And over the course of that month, you get 4 emails, one each week. And each email contains a video recording of me and an interviewing, talking with another creative person. And we'll talk about like a particular problem that that person is facing in their creative work, whether it's like the inner critic or working in different genres, or like trying to connect with a creative voice that needs to show up if you're like writing a novel told from a
Mhm.
character's point of view. So we kind of focus on each person's particular conundrum, and then we come up with a tarot spread that's perfect for, or suited for that kind of problem. We walk through the cards that were pulled for that creative person, and then we turn it over to the participants. So you have a tarot spread to help you address this aspect of your creative process. So you get like an interesting conversation with a creative person. You get to hear that other people are not just like churning out novels and like
Mhm.
paintings with ease during the pandemic. I think it's harder now for people because we're out of our communities and we
Yeah.
don't have that kind of engagement that creative people need. So it's a little bit of community building, hearing other voices, and then starting to learn a little bit about how cards can talk to each other and how you can interpret them in your own process. And then finally, some like, structured way to examine how your process is going and kind of make hopefully some breakthroughs. So it's all digital, and also all of the proceeds we're going to turn over to organizations that benefit children of incarcerated parents.
Hmm. Awesome. Okay. So is there, I mean, like you said, a lot of your focus has been on writing, but tarot can help any creative person. Like it doesn't work better for some other creative process than another. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I am not a visual artist. I'm not a musician. I am not really any other kind of artist. Writing is really
mhm.
the talent that I've cultivated, I guess, in my life. So I am bringing on artists, visual artists, to talk about their work, and even commercial artists. So, like one of the guests will be someone who is a graphic designer who makes stickers and kind of like paraphernalia that's sort of like punk rock around like the LGBT community and like issues around that. And so they're products that are for sale, but they are a creative extension of this person's voice and their point of view. So we will bring on other kinds of artists, not just writers, as part of that. And I haven't fully tested. I mean, I think tarot is so like, one reason I love it is that it is so universal. Like
Right.
anyone can connect with something in a tarot card. And if you come with the question around your own discipline or your own work, you'll get answers that should be useful in some way.
Definitely. Absolutely. Okay. Is there any one tarot card that you love or a couple of them? I mean, what's your relationship like with those cards?
I love many of the tarot cards, and some have been more vexing to me than others. But one card I'm really feeling right now is the Fool,
Mm.
who is the protagonist of the tarot. His number in the tarot is 0. And that's because he's kind of like a blank slate. Nothing has really happened for the Fool yet. The Fool is venturing off into the unknown and traveling lightly and just kind of going wherever life leads him, and knowing that like there's no use really in having expectations. It's more about knowing the journey is going to take you where you need to go and give you the lessons that you need to encounter. And so, like in the last couple, like the last month or so in my readings, I was getting like the Justice card, especially since, after the death of George Floyd and all of the protests broke out. And a lot of us who are paying attention and who are compassionate are trying to examine our own role in a
Right.
racist world. So that card was really important. And I've really been thinking about like, how can my business become an extension of my values, right?
Right.
Which is what justice is about, like knowing what your values are and then taking action to further them in the world. So I was really kind of grappling with that. And the project I just described is one way that I've come up with to experiment with that.
Mhm.
And of course, like my double Capricorn has like a perfectionist problem and went through the same inner critic thing that most people do. Like, no one's going to want this. Like, what if I make it? No one cares. Everyone will think it's, whatever. I just like the worst.
Right.
You're always hardest on yourself.
Always.
And so it's funny because the last couple readings I just did 2 readings within like a week or so of each other, and 3 of the same cards were in both readings.
Mm.
And the one card that was different in the most recent reading was the Fool, as kind of like, just go out there, like just see how it goes, like try it out. What's the big deal? Like,
Yeah. That's so funny that you said that because I'm very much in the energy of the Fool right now myself. And I have been for a few months at this point. But yeah, like even when you have expectations, and I'm trying hard to not let those expectations keep me in a box, because I feel, we put ourselves in that box. We have that end goal, and that's like all we're aiming for. Like, yeah, I have this idea of what I want, but I want to trust the Fool in myself to go for it, but to not, get stuck with that singular vision that I have, because I feel like, we're going to grow so much more and become so much more than what we could have ever imagined. And so I'm right in there right now.
yeah, it's definitely about the journey more than
Mhm.
it is the destination. And it's, of course, the perfect metaphor for life. Like, we don't really get to know how things are going to turn out. We just have to keep going forward
Get
and
started.
trying to trust. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, favorite tarot deck?
Uh, um, I learned on the Smith Rider-Waite deck,
Mhm.
which is like the traditional cards like this. A deck that I just has such beautiful art is the Pagan Otherworlds deck. So it's an interpretation of Smith Rider-Waite, but the artists, the designers are just like exquisite. Next World Tarot is another deck that I really love. It's much more inclusive,
Mm.
gender-wise and racially than either the Smith Rider-Waite or the one that I was just
Right.
describing. And I just got another one called Many Queens Tarot, and it's black and white, and the art is really interesting, and all of
Hmm.
the people in the cards have like all the different gender parts, like it's all kind of like smashed together. And so
Check
I
that
think it's
one out.
really interesting to think about, like, I think tarot brings up gender in interesting ways. Certainly the older decks really have this kind of binary construction, but
Mhm.
they also play with the masculine and feminine archetypes and how they blend together and how they contrast and how important they are in synergy with one another. And so this one just kind of takes it a little deeper, where the masculine and the feminine are mixed up in all these different ways.
Yeah.
Um, so I found that one really interesting.
Awesome. Um, what is trying to figure out how to word this. Like, what's a surprising thing that you've learned or that you've discovered since diving deep into tarot? Like, is there anything that surprised you either about yourself or just, life in general?
It's like endlessly surprising in a lot of ways. Like I think it's like in the strength card, there's the infinity symbol over her head, and the same is true in the magician. And I kind of think of tarot the same way. Like it has an infinite capacity to surprise you and astonish you.
Yeah.
I think I was drawn to it because I believed that it would help me connect with people on a deeper level more quickly. I really like one-on-one conversations more than I like being in groups. I'm like you, I don't like small talk, but I'm really interested in people, and I really want to know, like, what are their fears? What are their hopes? What are their wishes? Like, you can get a lot of information from someone you can get some information from someone by like looking at them visually or listening to them talk or understanding where they like to go and what they like to do. But when someone really sits down with you to do tarot, they're really going to focus on the stuff that's like weighing on them the most, the biggest questions that they have in their life, which they're not going around talking about at work or maybe with some friends. But when no one else is listening, you kind of articulate those questions in a way that maybe you never have before, even to yourself. And so just being able to set up a situation where someone can begin that process and to, be a witness to that or be a helper in understanding what they're going through, that's been the biggest gift for me. So I've met because of tarot, I'm talking to you. I never would have met you if I wasn't doing tarot. And I've just met so many people who are so cool and interesting because of tarot. And I didn't really intend to share this before, but part of that transformation process that happened for me before I picked up tarot, I quit drinking, and that was a struggle for me. And so in the years leading up to that change, like my life had become really isolated, and I was like, frankly, miserable and not connected with people. And even though my spirit, my soul really wanted to be in a community. And so tarot gave me that, like tarot became the tool for me to help other people find a transformation that is meaningful for them, and also to find community and find really interesting people to spend time with.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Life always surprises me, and um, you don't hear that, tarot has changed the lives of people too often. Most people look at it as just this party trick, but those of us who, really are students of it, and, clearly it has that capability, and that you're able to share that with other people and help them through their transitions and such in life is just amazing.
Well, and it kind of felt like, I don't know, like if you're able to go through a transformation personally, which everyone does, like we all change and go through phases, but some are more stark than others, and like being really, really miserable and then finding life again is, I didn't really think I was going to get that, And so it's not like I'm using tarot to try and get everybody to quit drinking, but like everyone's on their own journey trying to figure out what kind of changes are going to be meaningful for them. And tarot is really just like looking in a mirror, and I'm really like an interpreter. So I don't know what's best for them. I know what the cards, I know what I think the cards are saying for them, or what I picked up from the cards. And it's not that a tarot reading will change their lives, but something I say or some detail about a card may speak to them in such a way that like that little bit unlocks something, and suddenly you start traveling like even 2 degrees in a different path until like 2 years later you're somewhere really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, well, thank you for that. So anything else that you want to share?
Um, yeah, I would just encourage people to, if you have an interest in tarot, to go for it. Play with the cards. You are not required to get any kind of certificate in magic or whatever to use them or to have fun with them. Um, I, like I said, was under that false belief that I really needed to either like have to be a psychic person, or to be really familiar with the cards, or to have had someone mentor me from a young age, like, you know, a grandmother figure or something like that. But the cards are accessible to you right now, and your intuition is a part of you, and you can start to exercise that muscle just by using the cards sometimes. And I know a lot of your audience are parents, so you know, I think there's this notion that children can't handle tarot. And I think there's certainly conversations you might have in a tarot reading that would not be suitable for children. But um, I would say that, like, that isn't a reason to keep your cards away from a child. You can actually use a tarot card to really have an interesting, a deep conversation with your child that you might not have had otherwise. I was showing some cards one time to a friend's daughter, and she was like 7, and I was really concerned because like the tower came up, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't show this to her. It's like the scariest card. But I also believe not holding back the card that shows up. So I showed it to her, and she was like, you know, that reminds me of mythology. And she started talking about something else that she learned. So she didn't take it the way an adult would, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, my life is falling apart. She took it as like a picture that she could connect with. And, you know, it might bring up memories and associations or ideas or creative things that our kids are thinking, but don't feel comfortable saying to adults. And so there's a lot of space in tarot. And I would just encourage people to explore that if you have any interest in it.
Awesome. Thank you. Absolutely. Okay, we'll put your website, all your social media, all that stuff in the show notes.
Thank
This
you.
is super fun. I'm looking forward to Cosmic Rescue. I'm signing up.
Yay, thank you. We'll be announcing probably on August 17th, and we have a cool lineup of the first 4 artists, and hopefully we'll keep it going. So I appreciate you letting me share that and
Absolutely.
reaching out to me.
Yay. Well, thanks for joining me. Talk soon.
Okay, take care.